Hello, and welcome to Parkinson's Life, the monthly podcast offering a voice to the global Parkinson's community. I'm Laura Smith, editor of Parkinson's Life magazine, and each month we'll be bringing together two people with experience of Parkinson's to share their stories. Through lively, open, and honest conversation, we'll be exploring life with the condition, discussing some of the challenges, and sharing ideas on how to live well with Parkinson's. Parkinson's Life is supported by the European Parkinson's Disease Association, Europe's only Parkinson's disease umbrella body. For up-to-date research and information about living well with Parkinson's, visit epda.eu.com. This month, we're bringing together two people who live with Parkinson's and are also parents. Allison Toepperwein is a blogger and communications manager who has competed on American Ninja Warrior. She lives with her 9-year-old daughter Emma in Houston, in the US. Larry Gifford is a Canada-based broadcaster and presenter of the podcast When Life Gives You Parkinson's. He lives in Vancouver with his wife Rebecca and 9-year-old son Henry. In a wide-ranging and sometimes emotional conversation, they share their experiences of family life with Parkinson's.
Well, hi, Larry. I'm Allison Toepperwein. I'm 41. I live in Houston, Texas, and I'm the Director of Communications for Baylor College of Medicine's Cancer Center, and I'm a mother of a beautiful 9-year-old daughter.
Oh, well, hello, Allison. I am Larry Gifford. I have a beautiful 9-year-old son, Henry, and a lovely wife, Rebecca. We live in Vancouver, British Columbia, where I am a radio executive. I oversee 2 radio stations, and I work with radio and TV talent and coaching them on their performance. I'm certainly not the exercise fiend that you are. I've avoided exercise as long as I possibly can in my life, and Parkinson's has shoved it into my face, and so I do it begrudgingly, but it does help for sure. How did you get from diagnosis to American Ninja Warrior? Like, was Emma involved in that?
Basically, I went to the doctor. I was recommended to go to a movement disorder specialist in Houston. The first thing out of his mouth is, you need to start moving. Exercise is the only thing proven to slow the progression. So that was out of all of my life. I had recently separated, got divorced, moved and sold my home, had to move back in with my father, had to work for my father because I didn't have a job. All of these things, and then 5 months from separating to the end of the year, New Year's Eve, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So my life was completely out of control. For me, my rock bottom was just an emotional rock bottom where, I had all of these factors in my life spiraling out of control. So when faced with all of that, and the doctor looks at me and tells me the one thing that can help me the most is something that I can directly control, I jumped on that like it was going out of style. Like I got on that real quick.
I was diagnosed in August of 2017 with young onset Parkinson's, and probably had the symptoms for 8 years before that, and we just didn't know what was going on. When I was diagnosed, Henry was 7 years old. He has a mild intellectual disability, so he's a couple years behind his peers. So it's harder for him to grasp abstract ideas. So hearing that his dad had Parkinson's disease, he just knew I was sick, and he was afraid I was going to die. And it's still an ongoing conversation with Henry to this day, where every now and again I go, "Are you going to be around when I'm 16? Well, you're going to be dead then." So he still has this concept that because I'm sick, I'm going to die. And that just breaks my heart.
How old is he now?
He's 9 and, still curious and really into, we've involved him as much as we can. So like one of his jobs is like just the other day, we were at a restaurant and my hand was shaking. And he goes, "Dad, your hand's shaking." Just giving him the job to notice when things are different makes him feel involved. And I was at a fundraiser that was not Parkinson's related the other day, and I came home and he goes, "Did you raise a lot of money for Parkinson's?" I said, "No, this wasn't for Parkinson's, son." He goes, oh, I thought it was going to be for Parkinson's. So he's very aware of what's going on. He just hasn't grasped it fully.
Well, my daughter is 9 and she's dyslexic, but she's fully aware of the fact that mommy has Parkinson's and she shakes, but she doesn't understand the entire scope of it. And personally, I don't feel that I should tell her what could happen because it's not a definite.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, Allison. I mean, what is going to happen? None of us can say for sure. So we just have to take it day by day. And on a given day, I might be able to get down on the floor and play with him, but then the next day I can't. And he has a hard time understanding that. So what we've started to do is, because I used to play for an hour with Legos with him or with Thomas the Train or whatever, and so he was used to that. And now, after 5 minutes, I may just be rigid and stiff and sore and so is it a 5-minute day or is it a 10-minute play or is it a 15-minute play? And so we kind of set some guidelines on how much time we get to play this time. And he seems to accept that. But, he just wants his dad. He doesn't care necessarily that I have Parkinson's half the time.
Do you ever find that he holds your hand when it's shaking to try and make it stop?
Oh, yeah.
Because Emma does that a lot.
In fact, we were at the barber shop on Saturday morning, and my legs were going a little rapid, and my arm was shaking, and he's like, "Dad, stop it!" He was getting embarrassed. I'm like, well, I can't. If I could stop it, I would. When you were diagnosed and that was going on, what did you see as your future? Like, what was your fear as you were diagnosed and you saw Emma there and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What were you thinking?
Who's going to raise my baby? Now, Emma has a daddy, and he's involved, and we co-parent, but nobody can raise your baby like you can. So you mentioned with your son that you guys have that quality time together, and this little girl has seen her mom overcome. She has witnessed and been there through everything. And she is learning things that I couldn't possibly teach her any other way, much less someone else. I think you would agree that Henry is learning astounding lessons from you that no one else could teach him in no other way.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's overcoming adversity. It's, teaching him empathy and philanthropy and all sorts of lessons. And he's meeting all sorts of people that shake and jive all sorts of different ways. And they're just people, looking at people as people and seeing their soul and their heart as opposed to the outside. I think that's really valuable lessons he's learning as he's going through this journey with me and my wife, Rebecca. I mean, it's a family affair. I guess I'm lucky because I have a wife. She and I are co-parenting Henry. The longer that I have Parkinson's, the less I can do or I'm capable of doing. And so she's taking up more and more of the work. She's becoming more of a single parent, even though I'm there emotionally and physically. But it's interesting how the duties get divvied up differently over the course of time, and she gets frustrated too because she doesn't have downtime because she's homeschooling Henry, and then she's there all the time. It's a 24/7 thing. There's no break. So it's hard on her to deal with that, and then also deal with being my caretaker, quote unquote, even though I'm still capable. But she's there for me emotionally and trying to figure all that out. It's hard.
And God bless her for homeschooling. I would not be able to do that. I am not a teacher whatsoever, and I commend anybody for doing that. As much as I love my baby girl, work is an escape. Work is an escape. Being a mom, I think, is just tough. And I think a lot has to do with, for me, doing it on my own. I don't have a choice. I mean, I do have a choice. I could, marry whomever, but I don't want to marry just whomever. If I find someone, I want it to be for the right reasons, not just out of need. in that way. But this also, it seems like while she doesn't have downtime, there again, I'm a little bit of a Pollyanna and then I think of everything in the positive. But what a beautiful time for the two of you to connect on a deeper level as a married couple. Does it cause more problems than positives? Has this drawn you closer? Because a lot of times it does tear couples apart.
No, it's certainly brought us closer together. There's a lot more intimate conversations, a lot more open discussions about what we're thinking and feeling and how we're doing and what we need from each other. I host a podcast called When Life Gives You Parkinson's, and every episode we sit down together in our bedroom and have a conversation about some topic for 5 or 10 minutes and just sort of let the audience listen in. That's been really rewarding for us to just be vulnerable and be real and allow ourselves to feel what we feel and hear each other out and support each other. And I think it's really important because it will grow in you. There's no way to change it. No way I could help if she doesn't share with me, and there's no way she can help me if I don't share with her.
That is such an incredible lesson, and I am so jealous right now because that's a relationship that I would want to model after. And I've never had that,
Thank you.
So that's beautiful.
I don't think there's enough support for people with young onset Parkinson's disease. Well, Allison mentioned how people aren't aware that you're going through this unless they see the tremor or the dyskinesia, and there's 40 some odd symptoms that you can't see with Parkinson's that people are suffering through silently. And so it is hard. It's hard to know, for people to know when to support you and what you need unless you do make yourself vulnerable and ask for it. So enough support, enough awareness? No, never. Not until, they cure this thing. But, there is great support. I go to a support group with the Parkinson's Society of British Columbia once a month on a couple of boards that we're raising research funds for Parkinson's. I find my online community continues to grow. Even with young onset Parkinson's, there's not a lot of support for us because things are happening in the middle of the day. And so that's when I'm working. And there's not usually weekend classes or nighttime classes. There's a few here and there. So I get to those as much as I can. But there's not a lot of resources that fit the lifestyle of somebody who's a parent and somebody who is working full-time. That's frustrating.
I would agree. That's been a big complaint of a lot of young onset Parkinson's patients or people, that there's just not enough resources for the young onsets. But I will do one more than that and say there are hardly any resources for women with Parkinson's, namely young women with Parkinson's. There's not been hardly any clinical studies, enough research done. And we are becoming a much larger group than I think the researchers and the scientists understand. I feel like our monthly cycle and menopause play a huge role in the efficacy of our drugs. Our meds don't work about 10 days out of the month because of my cycle. So that's incredibly frustrating because my dyskinesia, I have to take more of my carbidopa-levodopa, then that causes more dyskinesia, which then my dyskinesia medicine doesn't work. So it's just one of those uphill battles. That would be, I guess, my biggest frustration. As far as support, my family, well, no one in my family has ever had Parkinson's, so they only know it through me. And like I said, I'm a strong-willed, stubborn as a mule, independent woman. So they don't see what could be. And it's even jarring for me whenever I go to a function and there are people around my age that are, exhibiting much more of the symptoms. But I find that online, through Facebook, I have met people from all around the world. I, do speeches and I get different people's names and we connect that way. And so from the Parkinson's community, I feel like I'm pretty well established and supported. But my family and friends, they are my tribe. And when I say my tribe, none of them have PD, but yet, while they may not understand everything that I'm going through, they're there for me 100%.
Allison, have you had to talk to the teachers or the kids at Emma's school about what's going on with you?
Live my life pretty much as an open book. And I also have found, maybe it's just my coping mechanism, but to go ahead and just address it straightforward with her teachers as well as her principals, everyone involved with her is very well aware up front, hey, I have Parkinson's. Yet she's never late for school. She's only gone from school when she's actually sick. Rarely am I sick. So, she's there on time. She's clean. She's fed. She has her homework done. And I make sure, almost overcompensating for the fact that I have PD, I always try and make sure that she's doing better. I'm more involved than most other parents, because I never want anyone to second guess and say, oh, that's the mom that has Parkinson's. So Larry, if you were just diagnosed, what were some of the things that you wish you could have been told by somebody?
Well, it's interesting because, at the time I didn't know anybody who had Parkinson's other than Michael J. Fox, and I knew Muhammad Ali had it. And so you don't think about these moments in your life. And so I wish somebody who was young onset, who had a family, could have sat me down and go, listen, it's going to be okay. You're going to live a long life. You're going to, you should be honest with your kids and involve them in it, or your son, in my case, and be real about it and be real about what you can do on a given day. I still beat myself up because it's hard to recover from things. Like, I can do things, but then the recovery is so much more. It's 2:00 on a Saturday and I got to take a nap because we went to the farmer's market. And so accepting life is, it's going to change. It's going to be okay. You're going to move forward. I just was introduced to this great new book that I wish I would have had 2 years ago. It's called Shaky Hands by Dr. Sonia Mather, who also has Parkinson's. And it's a Parkinson's guide for kids. And we've been reading that at night. I read something to my son every night before bed. He just wants his dad. He doesn't care that you have Parkinson's. He doesn't care that you're shaken. He doesn't care that you're slower. He just wants his dad. And it's, as long as you can still give him the love that he wants, everything's going to be okay.
I would agree. I mean, for me, I've never hid that I have Parkinson's from Emma as long as I've been diagnosed. But I've also made sure to not build it up and give her more information than she needs. I feel like if I was newly diagnosed, and you've got the bells and whistles going off and you get on the internet and you read about all the things that will happen to you, it's really setting yourself up for a dangerous path. And it's also not doing your children any service. I feel like, move while you can, do as much with them, for them as you can. And as you said, you're building these amazing memories of quality time with your child or with your children. That's not something that you can ever regret.
Cherish it forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we tell Henry that he can ask us about Parkinson's whenever he wants. And sometimes I'll come home from work and he goes, Dad, come here. Come into the bedroom. I have to ask you a question about Parkinson's. And it's usually he just wants my attention and he knows that'll get it. But he'll pull me in and he goes, now, why do you have Parkinson's again? He'll just ask, and he'll go, okay, that's enough. That's enough. When he's done, he's done. But he knows that he can ask us anything at any time, and usually it's one or two questions, and then he's on to watching his iPad or watching or playing with his race cars or whatever, and so it's just part of growing up.
Larry, it was such a pleasure meeting you over the airwaves. I can't wait to actually meet you in person.
I know, Allison. It's going to be great. I don't think that I'll be participating in American Ninja Warrior, but I'll be there to root you on the next time you go on.
That sounds terrific.
Great.
Parkinson's Life is supported by the European Parkinson's Disease Association Europe's only Parkinson's disease umbrella body. For up-to-date research and information about living well with Parkinson's, visit epda.eu.com. Thanks for listening to the Parkinson's Life podcast. If you like what you've heard, please rate and review us on iTunes and SoundCloud. It helps others to find us. And if you'd like to share your story, offer suggestions for future topics, or tell us what you think, you can visit us at parkinsonslife.eu. Look out for episode 2, which will be released in the coming weeks. And until then, take care.